Okay. Okay, great. So now we may start. So we are at a lecture on investigative journalism by a Norwegian journalist. Astrid, again, please.
Dalehaug Norheim.
I won't even try to repeat this. Okay, so our rough plan will be our dear guest will provide a short lecture in simple English using a PowerPoint. Then students are to pose some questions on it, maybe give some feedback, and then Astrid will pose her own questions in her turn. Okay, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be able to give a lecture to you. And, you know, in this very special situation for Ukraine, it's a special, I'm very honored to be asked to be able to talk to you. So I'm very happy to do that. And I'm also, you know, my colleague said on my way in here, please say hello to every student, and we are cheering for you and thinking of you. So my name is Astrid, as you've seen. I'm a journalist, but I'm working now in a center of investigative journalism at the University of Bergen in the west coast of Norway. And I'm happy to say I've been a couple of times in Ukraine. Once I met Maxim, it was very nice in Kiev, a beautiful country, beautiful, wonderful people. And I also visited Lviv and Ternopil many years back.
I mean, it was just a decade ago, yeah? A decade ago, back in 2011, yeah?
Yes, that might be.
Just the famous year of Polish Ukrainian Euro football competition.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't remember such things. Of course, I should have done that.
But we just may associate it with our own history.
Yeah. And I'm situated here in Bergen on the western coast of Norway, and I would be so pleased to just hear where you are. Would that be okay with you? I printed out a map of Ukraine so I can see where you are right now. So could you, some of you, you won't change your name. Many of you have changed your names.
And some may be in the process of making.
Oh, that's great. I'm sorry for not being able to read in Cyrillic. Vladislav, can I ask you where you are?
Okay, you guys, you may write down in the chat box, or you may just communicate by voice. So it's your choice. Okay.
Yes.
Hello. Now I'm in the Donetsk region.
Donetsk. Oh, yes. Wow. And Polina?
Not very safe place, I would say, Vladislav.
I'm in the Dnipropetrovsk region.
Central South.
Central South. Okay. And anyone more will tell me where they are? Anne, I can see your name in the.
I'm now in Poltava.
Yeah.
It's in the center of Ukraine.
Ksenia writes that she is in Italy in the chat.
In Italy, I can see you're in Italy.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
And Diana?
I'm in Poland now.
You're in Poland. Oh. Anyone else want to tell me where they are?
Guys, be more aggressive, please. Poltava region. Alina, right.
Okay. That's very nice. Okay, thank you very much. What I will do is to talk a little bit about investigative journalism, what it is, and tell a story. The main story of Norway, one of the main stories in Norway last year was not a story I did, but I tell it to enlighten how it works, can work with investigative journalism. Please, just in Norway, we keep talking during lessons, so please just stop me and ask if you don't understand, or if you disagree, or if it's very difficult to follow. Okay? Please do that.
We'll try.
Okay, great. I'm Kharkiv. Oh, they have many in the chat. Now let me see. Thank you, everyone. I'm just going to make sure that I see the chat. Oh, here we have Ukraine, Dniprovich, Zaporizhzhia, Kharkiv, Bulgaria. Oh, you are all over the place. Yeah. This is very nice. Okay, I will share with you my presentation, and I hope I will manage. Whiteboard. Oh. Can anyone help me when it's on my desk? What is it? That whiteboard? I can't remember having this.
For me, not yet. I just see you.
Oh, you don't see.
Pleasant, but no white.
Let me see if it's no, that's not the right one. Oh, I'm so sorry about this. I'll test again.
Can anyone help you?
You know, I know allow Zoom to share your screen. I'm sorry, I have to open the system preferences to allow Zoom to share my screen. 2 seconds.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry.
Let's see.
Yeah.
It always happens with Mac, as I know.
No, Mac is the best, so it's not that.
One more.
Oh,
Follower, adapt.
yeah. Okay. Max, I actually have a problem logging in here. Oh, this is so bad. I'm so sorry, everyone. I have to find.
Guys, maybe it's time to pose maybe some questions.
Yes.
You may drop them in chat, not to distract the lecturer at the moment, but maybe it's time to formulate them, because I know that some of you may have questions to the lecturer.
Oh, this is crazy. Sorry, I have to log in and come back in again.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. Друзі, які труднощі, говоріть, що треба? Всі бачать, вона просить перейменувати латинкою акаунти свої. Всі вміють це робити?
Я намагалася, але в мене чомусь не вдалося.
Так. Не трагедія, безумовно, тобто буде як є. Тобто ми всі пробуємо зробити те, що ми можемо. Власне,
їй можна задати питання, пов'язане просто з журналістикою, тобто
з будь-чим, про те, на якому цьому мотоциклі вона катається, розумієте? Тобто тут моя логіка, щоб ви побачили живого журналіста і пробували комунікувати з ним по змозі на професійній темі. Але якщо ви готові говорити про побутове, без проблем, тобто одразу підказка, вся Норвегія – це половина Харкова за територією і населенням. Okay, now we can see you, your screen.
That's great, and I can see and hear you. And can you hear me as well? Oh, that is great. Okay, so when it comes to investigative journalism, let's have a quick look on what it is. It's not, everyone does not agree on this is investigative journalism and this is not, but it is, we had an editor here saying it is for journalists to check what the people in power do, not only refer to what they say. So checking,
Okay.
doing your own investigations, finding out, not only referring. And it is about, and I've tried to use Google Translate, and you might laugh, so this might be totally wrong, please let me know, but it's about holding the people in power accountable. I don't know about the translation here, but it's it can be the people of the prime minister, the government, the president. But for me, I have been working very much with people of churches, and it's also the same, holding the people in power accountable. Okay, so now I'm before taking you into the story, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. I'm sorry.
Wow, you have the translation. Just wow.
I don't know, but it's Google Translate. Google helping me.
It's perfect. Yeah. Believe me, it's perfect.
And how can we do that as journalists? Why are we entitled? Why can we do it? Well, it's based in the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression. From the UN Declaration of Human Rights, it says everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. And of course, such a right doesn't really exist if you don't have the information. So it also says that it includes the freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information. So seeking and information and sharing information is so important part of the freedom of expression. And in Norway, I don't know about Ukraine, but in Norway, we have this in the constitution, made very practical, actually, in our constitution. It says everyone has a right of access to the documents. So we can require copy of almost any document in the states, in the municipalities. We have this, I don't know if you have the same, but we have these web pages where I can, for example, write in my name and see all the documents that I have sent to the governing bodies, or I have received, or I can do the same with organizations and president. We don't have president, prime minister, and others. It doesn't mean that I can read them immediately, but I can see the date, who they are from, who they are going to, and the title. And then I can ask for access. And they have to answer me in, I think it's 7 days. And why I'm telling you, it is because it's very important for the story I'm going to tell you. Okay. I see there's a couple of questions. I love it. I see something in the chat.
We just tried to use the pause we had. So
very good.
May I propose that you just proceed, and then
yes.
we just pile them, okay,
yes.
for the right time. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
That's
Thank you.
Very good. Just keep on. That's fine. Keep on chatting as well. So this is the story, what happened here last year. Use this as a background. Let me see why. This is Kjell Ingolf Ropstad. Well, I have a difficult name, but he's worse. He is leader of the Christian Democratic Party and a member of the Norwegian Parliament. And by the way, he's a very friendly, very nice guy. As a journalist, I've been working as a political journalist as well. And I met him a lot of times, and he's really a very nice guy, fighting a lot for the right of the children. Yes. But what happened? He also became a member of the government. He was appointed Minister of Children and Equality back in January 2019. Here is the government at that time, and you can see him in the front row, number 2 from left, the tall guy there. A very powerful man at that time. He is born in the village Evje, with a river flowing through. It's here in the south of Norway, where you can see the red dot, Evje. It is 330 kilometers from Oslo and takes 5 hours by car, and it is important, I will tell later why. And it is 5 hours by car to the parliament in Oslo. This is our parliament, where he was elected an MP and also went into the government. And we knew as journalists he had a wife and children in Oslo for years. They were also, you know, giving his wife wasn't very happy to be in the newspapers, but sometimes she was there as well. As a politician, you know, you also require your wife sometimes need to be in the news as well. So everyone knew that. So then last summer, someone had heard something about Ropstad's housing situation in the early summer of 21. It's a journalist from the newspaper Aftenposten, which is one of our major newspapers. She was, I think, out drinking beer with someone, and they just mentioned that it was worth checking his housing situation, because there had been some fraud for the member parliaments connecting to the travel expenses. They have been had said they wanted money back from the parliament for traveling, and they haven't done the travels. That was back, and then just someone said they heard something about his housing situation. So this was a little awkward situation, because it was a very short time to our parliament election in September last year, and the Christian Democratic Party, which Ropstad was leading, they were fighting against the electoral threshold at 4%. I don't know if you have the same thing in Ukraine, that if you have 4% of the votes, you get far more of the MPs. It's to avoid, if you have less than 4%, you can have 1 or 2 or even 3 MPs, but if you then have 4%, you get very easily 8 MPs. Very important to gain power.
I cannot say any definitive about it. So maybe if students can comment on that, please do. Okay. But maybe we just have this idea of simple majority. So the more votes, the more voices you get, then the more seats in the parliament you have.
And that is the main rule in Norway as well. But it's something about the 4%, which is very important to be a part of the power. It's much more likely to be a part of the power if you have it 4%. So it's so important. And this is important in this case, because last election, Christian Democratic Party had 4.2%, and they were close to having the surveys before the election show that they were around 3-4%. So they were fighting for every vote. And then the journalist heard this rumor about something about the party leaders' housing situation, very close to the election. So that was also a topic I want to discuss with you afterwards, because the rule in Norway is if you live more than 40 kilometers away from Oslo, and you get elected as an MP or a part of the government, you will have free housing in Oslo. And this photo is from actually one of the apartments. The parliament and the government, they own around 140 apartments and houses in and right around Oslo, in Oslo, basically, so people can live there. The reason is it should be being elected as a parliament member should be available, possible for all people, not only the rich ones.
Okay.
So you should be able to have a house, have a family somewhere else in Norway, and then have somewhere to live in Oslo.
Okay.
It's so expensive to live in Oslo, so you can't, require that they buy their own house.
Maybe I just can't imagine how expensive it is.
I think the other European cities have the same thing. Yes, it is expensive.
Yeah, because as I know that the life level economically is quite high in Northern Europe.
It is, and we pay a lot of tax.
Okay.
And that we have the oil, of course, and we pay a lot of tax, and that is also an important topic here. High tax level, because then you have these investigative journalists in Aftenposten. The name is Vegard, that's the man, and Nina, that's the female, and they checked, well, where does Ropstad live? And they found out he lived with his family nearby Oslo. Okay, no problem. Then they checked, kept on checking. They got a list. They asked the parliament for the list of all members of parliament who had a flat paid by the parliament. And turned out it was 127. And how did they do it? The source, it was a parliament. They require the information from the parliament. And we are entitled to do that. We can just ask them, please give us a list of all member of parliaments who has a paid flat. Okay, a list of 127. But then they went on checking because they thought it was something strange about Ropstad's housing. So they checked, okay, where did he live before? And then they found out until 2020, the year before, his address was registered at his parents' house in Evje. You remember this village 5 hours from Oslo?
Yeah.
And they could find out because the source was the population register. As journalists, we can go into the population register, type in someone's name and see where they have been living before. Important to have that access to the register.
Okay.
That was quite strange because he has been married for 10 years and had 2 children and was still registered at his boy's room at his parents' home in Evje. How did they know that he was married, when he was married, that he had 2 children? Well, they just used the archive of newspaper interviews and found it on Facebook, what he has posted himself on Facebook. And by the way, as journalists, we know such things because we meet them and, know. And that was, they had this question mark. Why was he then registered at his parents' home? The normal thing would be that he was registered together with his wife when he was married. So they checked, where is his wife registered? And then also the source was the population register and the tax register. They could put those information together and they found out that she was living in different flats owned by the parliament and the government in Oslo. That was very strange. And he was still with his parents' home. It's very...
So not just one, but various flats, yeah?
Yes,
okay.
They have been moving from different flats, from one to another.
Okay.
It's different sizes and they place different places and sizes also. Normally, if you don't have children, you have a quite small one, and then you register with how many children, then you get bigger ones.
Okay.
And then they realized they have not been registered at the same place. So they checked the laws. Then they went into the laws. Is it legal to be registered in his parents' house while being married. And they read the tax law, the election law, the checks with the population register and the municipal law. And the answer was, yes, it's legal. What he's doing is legal. It was an exemption in the law. It doesn't make sense for people, but it was legal. So then the thing is, now what? It's legal, what he's doing. What are they going to do? They decided 8 days before the election, and you know, they were fighting for every single vote, this Christian Democratic Party and everyone else, but they decided to publish. And the story was Ropstad had free housing in Oslo for 10 years. He was registered at his parents' house while he had wife and children in Oslo. And they asked him for several days for an interview before publishing. And when he finally found some time for giving them an interview, talking about this, he said, I can understand people find it unfair. And it was published 8 days before, and it was a huge story. And I think the story was even more tense because he's leader of a Christian Democratic Party. So they expect, they don't expect things like this, even if it's legal, but it's still legal. And I was a journalist at that point. I started working at the university some months back, and people of the party, they were furious, not at their leader, but at the journalists publishing this. They think it was, why do they do this? This is legal. Why do they publish? Okay, it's complicated, but are you kind of following? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
More or less. We have a girl who's currently living in England. She's helping with translation just on the go.
Oh, it's amazing. Thank you. Let me know if I should talk more slow, okay?
Okay.
Or if I should repeat anything. So they didn't only check with Ropstad's flat. You know, you remember they had all the 127 different MPs living different in the parliament's flats. So they checked with everyone. They used the same method. They checked in the register. Where are they registered? And they checked with Google Maps. How many kilometers is it? And who do they live with? And they found out by election day that 5 members of parliament had taken advantage of the rules by being registered as friends and family far from Oslo, even if they had a family in Oslo, or even some of them used to have a house in Oslo that is sold to be able to live for free, and then pro forma registered at some friend's house. The election day came, and the Christian Democratic Party lost. This story is from election day. You can see he is a bit disappointed. The party got 3.8%. They lost. They used to have 8 members of parliament. I'm sorry, yeah, members of parliament. But now, after dropping below the 4%, they only had 3. And the party went down, also contributed to the resignation of the whole government. We had to change the government. There wasn't a majority anymore. So I can't say it's not the only, the Christian Democratic Party going down is not the only reason for losing, for the government to lose power. And it's still debated whether this story was the reason they lost the election. Some argue it is, and others argue it isn't. But even after the election, the investigative journalists continued. Because they were following the tax track. In Norway, we have very high tax level. And it's the politicians who are deciding how high the tax level is going to be. So we think it's very important that the politicians are the first one to pay their tax. And they found out that Ropstad had paid, had paid no tax for the advantage of free housing in Oslo. They found it by looking into the tax law and his tax bill. But the question is, and I'm sorry, and there was some new information coming up, and he had agreed with his parents to pay for his living costs at home, at their home. Because if he did that, everyone would, well, it was more likely to think it's okay that he was having paid no tax for the advantage of having a flat in Oslo. So he made an agreement, written agreement with his parents. I'm going to pay for some of the living costs at your home, but he never did it. He never paid a penny.
Mm.
And then it's what we call tax planning. I don't know if you know that word. It's
You mean it's avoiding really of paying taxes?
That's correct.
Avoiding tax paying.
Yes, avoiding tax. And
But I have a question.
Yes.
Were his parents indebted for the living costs? Who paid really actually for the home?
They did. He never paid
okay,
anything.
okay.
Yeah, he didn't pay anything at home.
Okay.
But when he realized that he should have paid, if he paid something at home, he could avoid paying tax. He agreed with his parents, I'm going to pay, so I don't have to pay tax. But he didn't pay anything. But still, people find it very, people are very not happy for politicians who are deciding that we are going to have a high tax level in Norway, avoiding to pay tax himself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And in this situation, these journalists, Vegard and Nina, they could go to the parliament and ask for, require a document that where he had signed. Every year they have to sign, do you have any living expenses at home with where you come from? And they can require all the documents from all years from what has Ropstad sent in. What was his documents like? And that's also important. We are entitled to have that information. So what happened is that they tried to find out, is this legal? Would it be okay for him to do this? Or is it, does it break any law? People didn't like it, but was it legal? And they found out if he should have paid, if he paid tax, no, the tax he should have paid was around 60,000 euro as a first estimation.
Yeah, huge sum.
Living in Oslo is very expensive. So if you have the house, it's seen as income, and you have to pay tax for that. And what happened is that people could sort of I'm sorry, this is first the story that they wrote. This is after the election. The leader of the Christian Democratic Party said he had expenses at his parents' house to avoid tax, but he never paid a krone, that is Norwegian penny. He didn't pay any. Yeah. And he gave an interview and he said I made a bad assessment. I am sorry. I will pay the extra tax. He was still an MP and a leader of the party, even though the government was about to resign. But then people really reacted to what he had been doing. And I could also feel it very clearly. For after the first story about him being registered at his parents' home, people were angry at the journalists. And this second story, the people of the Christian Democratic Party were very disappointed of their leader. That was a huge shift, because he had planned to avoid tax, and he had said he was going to pay, and he didn't, at his parents' home. And they did a story about the reactions within the party after the new disclosure of what he has been doing. And it took only one day after he said, I'm going to pay back, I'm sorry, and he resigned, both as a leader of the party, and by that time, yes, the government hadn't resigned finally, because it was so short time after the election. So he resigned both as a minister and the leader of the party. But you can't resign as a member of the parliament, so he still is. But that is not the whole end of the story, because Vegard and Nina in Aftenposten, they had a list of all these 127 flats, member of parliaments with flats, and where they were registered, and how was their housing situation really, where did they live? They knocked the doors in other parts of Norway to find out, do you really live here? They found member of parliaments renting room in a basement, in a cellar, just to be able to register there formally to have a free house in Oslo. So altogether 8 by this time did tax planning in different ways, but it was sort of the same. And they also discovered that the parliament, the leadership of the parliament, the director of the parliament, never checked. And they didn't really know the rules very well themselves. So the journalists read the laws and knew the rules better than the parliament itself. So what happened afterwards is that police started to investigate several of the MPs for breaking the tax law. And the director of the parliament resigned because she had no control and didn't check, and even gave wrong information. And the parliament started to change the regulations on housing. And the president, one of those 8 who did tax planning, was newly elected president of the parliament. And she also resigned. And several other newspapers also starting writing about the same, because they were checking their members of parliaments from their area. Where do they really live and how are they paid? So it all together, I don't know the final number, but around 8 or 10 by now are under police investigation, and are being, now the news are coming that they are fined. But as a member of parliament, you are elected, and the people have voted for you, so you can't resign as a member of parliament. So they are still member of parliaments, but you can resign as president of the parliament, like one of them did. Okay, the story is still ongoing, and now it's in the phase of a police investigation, and also new regulations. And the reaction among Norwegians are very people are very upset because these are well paid. And they have they are very have a lot of resources, and at the same time we had for the last years we had many cases on where people on welfare, having welfare, who are not able to work, have been fined very heavily and even jailed because they haven't understood the rules for the welfare. And then people are very upset about the MPs that are not, they don't think they are being fined heavily enough. Then nobody is jailed yet. So they don't feel it's the same, the rules are the same for the ordinary people and the MPs. But we have had some huge ethical discussions and methodology, some discussions about the method. So I would like to discuss with you. But first, I will be happy to hear if you have any questions, or I understand very easily if you have, if it's hard to understand. But any questions would be welcome. I just stop sharing. Is that okay?
I have one question, not about this presentation, about you. What's your favorite traditional Norway food? I know about kjøttboller, but because I watching this in MasterChef.
Oh, that's nice. Lamb. Now in the autumn time, it's the season for lamb with kål. What is that? The green leaves. What is it called in English? Yes, it's lamb. It's a stew, lamb stew. But kjøttboller is very nice as well, especially those my mom make.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
It was a very interesting story. Thank you. And I have a question about presentation. How often are stories like this revealed?
Stories like this about the MPs and the parliament and the government, maybe different stories once or twice a year, I'd say, like this. But big investigative stories on various things in Norway, we have this once a year. 500 or 600 Norwegian journalists gather at a conference, and we share what we have been doing, and we send in our reports of the how we did investigative journalism. And every year it's around 60 reports. So of course that's not everything that is done, but both big newspapers like these ones, but also very small newspapers really dig into and disclosure, misuse of power and very bad things. We see it's the center I'm working at, we are working with all kind of newspapers and TV stations and radio stations and podcasts and, all over Norway, doing very different things. And what I can say we see is that if you have a very motivated, dedicated, skilled journalist, she or he could do a lot of things. So it's more about being a very good journalist and having a leader, making room for you, than being very powerful and very big newsroom.
I understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. More questions? Dear students? Oh, some are in the chat box.
Yes.
Yeah. How often do you take part in such meeting?
I will answer from the top. Such a meeting, you might mean like meeting with you? Is that you think about Vladislav?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Visiting professor, so to say.
This is my first time with foreign students, and I'm very pleased to. But we at the University of Bergen, we have bachelor in journalism, and we have a master in investigative journalism. And my work, we have actually 2 masters of investigative journalism education programs, and my work is to coordinate, build up one of them that is for journalists who are the people who already are journalists. We are making a master program for them so they can be extra skilled in investigative journalism. So we meet. We have 3 different master modules going all the time, 2 or 3. So that we do that quite often, and we have the master education, and then we have people coming in, and I'm going out to see newsrooms and conferences with journalists and teaching them about investigative stories. Yeah. What was the most difficult piece of investigative journalism you've done? Oh, thank you. I think the worst thing is more about me than about the story I did. I was very young when I started doing investigative stories. I was like 22, 23, and I wasn't trained a journalist really. I had my education from the university in history and comparative politics. And I was in a newsroom they were not very experienced, and still I had very tough stories about sexual abuse within churches. I think that was the hardest one. But that is also much about me being so young and alone and not skilled. But I really learned a lot. But I wish I was more skilled. So for Ksenia, have there been cases of harassment, persecution of journalists in Norway related to journalistic investigations? Yes, but not at the level we see any other places. I have to say that really we are journalists are being threatened. We had many years back, we had a situation where a criminal shot at a journalist's home, but this is really rare. You hear me saying some years back it happened once, so it's nothing compared to, I guess, what you experience and in other country of high corruption, a high level of corruption. It's more like we have a lot of spin doctors here in Norway. We have a lot of PR workers trying to tell us that what we are doing is not very important. We have misunderstood everything, but it's very rare that we are threatened. I know a couple of that might have been, but it's, luckily we're not very much. But it's still, I have to say, it's working as an investigative journalist. It's hard for many people because they feel alone. They are not very popular. People are angry at them. They don't want them to dig into this. And I remember the reactions after the first publishing. As I told you, people were so angry at the journalists of Aftenposten who could dare to publish something like this just before the election. And also in this story I told you, it's when they were going to do the interviews for the second story. No, I'm sorry, that when they were going to do the interviews with the parliament director, they were sort of, oh, please, can't you send some journalists who know the story? Oh, you are so young. You been working at the parliament before? They felt a bit harassed, even if it wasn't never physically, but it was didn't feel unfair at all. Okay.
I want to ask you for advice, maybe some advice.
Yes.
My name is Ksenia. I'm in England now.
Yes.
And I started trying to write in English for a magazine. It's not really famous magazine. It's read by 200 people. It's like in my village and near villages. And I write now about Ukraine, our culture, food, and other facts, not about war. Will it be interesting for people? What do you think about it?
I think a good question. If there is Ukrainians in that villages, that area where it is published, it will be interesting. If it's something people can relate to. Who are the Ukrainians? What kind? How is the culture? What kind of food do we like and stuff like that? I think it can be interesting. But I think most are still interested in people, in your story, in who are you? What? How is it for you to come to England? How do you have contact with people back in Ukraine? How? Where are they? Because in Norway, and I guess it would be the same in England, you are on the news every day, or even the around the whole day and night. So we sort of feel quite close to Ukraine. So I think it's more that, and we know also that the story of the people can more relate to that. I don't know, did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much. I just realized that few people know about our country, too small. So
Yeah,
what we are and what we do. So I try write
yeah,
and
it's good.
explain for people.
You know, and advice, what we journalists don't do very often, but we should do more often. We should go out to the people we meet in the grocery store, or sitting on a bench in the park and saying, hello, I am from Ukraine. I'm writing about for this newspaper. What would you like me to write about? What do you want to know? Do you have any idea? Are you curious about something? And just listening. Make a couple of or three of those, and then you can think about what are they really what they want to read about. Okay, this is amazing. Many questions here. How much do journalists earn on average in Norway? Well, we are, as I told you, Norway, we have high expenses, high living costs, and high earnings. So journalists are from, in euros, 40,000 a year up until 80,000, I think, a year.
80.
40 to 80, depending on the size of the newspaper and how experienced and skilled you are. Do you feel intimidated when creating investigative journalism? Yeah, sometimes I do. Yes. Well, I understand the question. If I feel I'm intimidating other people, or if they are.
I believe it's about have you ever been intimidated?
Yeah.
In the process.
Verbally, yes. People don't like me. They tell me what happened when I was very young, working on these stories. People always, those I was going to ask the difficult questions, they tend to emphasize very much how young I was. How old are you, my friend? What is your background? And I felt it was for making me smaller. And I remember going to the hairdresser saying, please cut my hair so I look older. But I think it was a way of sort of intimidating me, but it never physically, never physically. But almost everyone I've spoken to who do investigative stories find it sometimes very difficult. Other times it's great when you really do feel that you do something very useful for the society and people. But what you need is good colleagues, knowing what you're doing, and a very good leader. And also people to discuss with, is because like you saw in the story I told you, it's so many faces. You want, is this a story? Should I just leave it? Would it be right to publish it right before the election? They discussed that a lot in the paper. And you need, you need a motivation to be a good investigative journalist, but you need good colleagues and a good leader as well to last, because it's heavy. How much competing among investigative journalists? Yeah, good question. Yes and no. In Norway, I think that is not ordinary, but in Norway, there is a lot of cooperation, meaning when we are working on a story, we don't tell anyone normally, but when we have published, we write this report on 20 pages, telling everyone how we did it. So everyone else can learn from us and we can learn from them. And then once a year, we meet at a conference and share our experiences. And that also made it's very much competing about every story. But then after we finished, we are sharing and caring. But you don't want everyone else to break the news that you have been working on, really, really. What motivated you most to enter this non-entertaining area? I have asked myself that question a lot of times, and I don't really know the answer, but I think I grew up on a very small farm, far from anyone in power, and I had that view on those people in power. They don't realize how much power they have.
Oh.
And they use it and misuse it, sometimes because they want, and sometimes because they didn't understand what impact they make on others. So I think it's that girl from this farm with some sheep and raspberries far from others that really, I'm still that girl. A part of me is still that girl. Yeah. Have you ever been to Ukraine? Yes, I've been to Ukraine twice. I've been to Lviv and Ternopil. Very nice. Lviv is a beautiful city, and Ternopil also very friendly, meeting people. I went there with a friend of mine whose ancestor came from Ukraine. He's from Canada, but his ancestor, his name is, this is so difficult to pronounce for me, Kachuk.
It's surname, his surname.
Yeah, that's his surname, Kashuk.
Okay, yeah. Sounds like very much like Ukrainian.
Yes. So I've been there, and then I also been to a journalist conference in Kiev, where I met Maxim for the first time. Beautiful city, and so sorry what a war has come to you and what's happening to you, really. Have you come across publications in Norway that are aimed at propaganda, for example, political, and how do you deal with it? Wow. Yes, publications meaning on web, internet-based. We do have leaks, and well, we don't really. They are we have some news trying to destabilize the political system, but it's not really a big problem yet. But we have to be really aware of it, and we are very much aware of. We are more afraid of sabotage, physical sabotage right now. I don't know if you heard about the Nord Stream in the outside Sweden. The Russia, well, we don't know. It was a sabotage, probably blowing up the paper pipelines. And in Norway, we have, the oil platforms. We have a lot of gas, and we are very concerned about that situation, even more the propaganda. But we need to think about both. What world and Ukrainian media do you read? Oh, I'm sorry, I have to admit I don't read a lot of Ukrainian media. In Kiev Independent, do you know the Kiev Independent? Do you read it? Yeah, I read that. From time to time, I read that. And international, I try to read BBC and CNN and The Economist. And then I'm kind of following investigative stories from different places. Yes, I think that's my best answer to that. What is your favorite method in investigative journalism? Oh, these questions are great. I think what is underestimated is talking to people. Because we are being quite skilled at data journalism. Some are, and it's important, have a lot of information, and you can do analysis from a lot of information in data in Google Sheets or Excel. We do programming in Python. We do a lot of things, but nothing can overrate talking to people. The whole story I told you started because one of the journalists were talking to someone that think they have heard something about the Ropsta's housing situation. It was nothing that anyone else sort of knew about. So if you want hidden information, you need to get to know people, behave in a way that they can trust you and show that you are trustworthy, and then they can give you information. Often they test you by giving you a little bit of information, and they see how you handle it. If you don't publish, if they expect you to publish, or if you don't, you're not very clear about the rules, that I think I should publish this, or I don't think it's possible to publish. If you're not clear in the communication, they won't give you more. But if you are, even if you're publishing the first thing, or if you're just saying, well, I can't publish this, or this is not interesting enough, but do you have more, being really being nice, being polite, being trustworthy, you can have a lot of information coming. And then, of course, I think it's very important to meeting, or not, I've been talking a lot about people in power now, but I think meeting people who has stories to tell about being abused, being in horrible situations. It's so important to tell those stories, but you have these people, you have to take good care of them as a journalist. What do you think about feminism? Oh, that's I really like it. How common is it in your country? Norway is famous for being a very feminism is very strong. We've had a female prime minister. We have female all the leaders. Our top political and judicial leaders have been female, or are female. At the same time, I have to say, women are paid less. We have also have very high rights of women working. At the same time, women are paid less. We are carrying the most heavy burden of taking care of children and elderly family members. I have 2 children myself, and I've been working part-time. I'm happy to do that, but I also think that I should not have been less paid, even if I have been on leave for a part of my career. And at the university, for example, we have a lot of PhDs, a lot of female students, female PhD, but not many female professors. So we have a long way. We have still a way of, yeah. So, yeah. What do you think? No, that was the one. And you're helping me with the wages. Okay, no, just keep on asking. Or do you want me to pose one of your questions? One of my questions. What exactly do you like about your job? Maybe top 5 points. I'm a very curious person. I like meeting people. So I love being paid for that. I love to spot something that I'm curious about, and I think this is not right. And then being able to follow up and publish and ask those in power the questions and check what they're doing. And of course, I'm able to travel and able to yes, meet a lot of people, but that is not only, you know, people in power. It's nice to meet the prime minister sometimes and all these artists and stuff, but it's what really makes an impression on me is meeting ordinary people with a great story or something important to tell. And it's not boring. It's something new coming up all the time. So you're never bored. What is a bit can be challenging is, as I told you, I have 2 children. They are now 18 and 20, so they're not children anymore. But it's sort of the way I work a bit around the clock. So I think my husband is a bit tired of me working around the clock because I love it. Yeah.
Astrid, I asked twice students to stop posing questions just in order to let you pose yours. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think this is great.
We are deeply interested in you. Okay, and your country you represent, your journalist tradition and culture you belong to. But please share your questions with us.
Yes. So I would like to hear if do you think it was right of the newspaper to publish the story before the election? That has been a huge debate in Norway, a huge within the journalists area, and people were angry. Was it right of Aftenposten to publish the story about the Christian Democratic leader right before, or should they have waited? Should they have not been so eager to find out whether he was doing wrong with the housing situation? What do you think?
So it's the question, yeah?
That's my question.
Okay.
For you.
Okay. Yeah, давайте я перекладу. Now, maybe it's better that I do make sure that everyone got the question, okay?
Yes.
Народе, запитання таке. Вона запитує про це розслідування. Як ви думаєте, чи не передали куті меду ці журналісти? Чи не варто їм, наприклад, було зачекати буквально декілька днів, дати людям обратися, а далі поставити ті факти до громадськості? Окей? You may propose your answers whether in writing or by voice, please.
And there is no correct answer. Here we are, it's arguments for and arguments against. So please don't be afraid to say that what you're saying is wrong. This is journalism.
Exactly. Астрід наголошує, що вона не вважає, що це питання має очевидну відповідь, тому не бійтеся презентувати свої точки зору. Будь ласка. Okay. Wants to volunteer? Wants to start? Okay. Okay, maybe can we start with voting? So maybe some just voice whether he or she is pro or against this such a strategy.
Who would have voted? Now, who would have published before? Who would have waited till after the election? Okay. Any of you?
Yeah. Висловіться, будь ласка, ті, хто вважають, що ліпше було би зачекати. Бо це фактично була така підніжка.
I agree that it would be more punctual to wait a little, but this work is definitely needed. It's very important to show the situation before for people.
Mhm.
Why do you think that is important?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, why do you think it is important to show it?
I think it's important that that people know and saw political life and how they no, just a second, just a minute.
Yeah.
There is a phrase. There is an entry in the chat.
Yes, I saw that. I think this approach was aimed at changing the position of the community in relation to the political party. Yeah, as journalists, it's so important for us to be independent. We are not pro any party or against any party. We should treat all parties the same. And this was one of the very difficult questions because for Aftenposten, because they knew it would be very hard for the party if they published before, but people would think that they were going to hunt them down or contribute to change the government, but they weren't. So but it's a very good question or is it a good remark.
Vladislav, can you continue with your speech, with your idea?
Yeah, I consider it necessary to demonstrate that politicians follow the laws. The people will trust the authorities more if they see that everyone is equal in the performance of duties.
Yes. That is why they did it. That's exactly. You sound like the editor of Aftenposten.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great.
But it was a very difficult because they knew it was they could change the election by publishing it. So it was very difficult for them. Anyone who would have been waited to publish after the election?
For me, I would this approach, to publish something as fast as you can prove it. I believe it's the heart of journalism, because you know that it's so. You see, we had this idea of constant postponing in our own culture, something that is deemed and maybe even recognized as important to be changed can be postponed endlessly. Just okay. It's not the right time. It's not the right time. It's not the right time, and it just continues for generations. Yeah, that's why I totally support this idea of praising the public's right to know. You see, yes. Avoiding deciding for others what they should or shouldn't do, as long as there is an information that concerns public interest. It must be made public. It must be. Okay, it's only my point of view. Okay, right?
But that's the same we are following, and they said if we chose to publish after the election, that's also a choice that could, because then we were sort of helping the Christian Democratic Party because we had information and we did not publish. That is also a big responsibility. Yeah, they said. So
okay, again, they possibly they maybe got accused of so to say maybe some sort of hidden support, hidden lobbying.
That's
even
true.
in that mild form.
Oh, they were heavily lobbied by the Christian Democratic Party not to publish. They were heavily lobbied. Yes.
Oh yeah. I see.
Have you time for one other another question? Or I want to
we have three minutes left. That's why we have definitely we have time for a question.
Okay, so why do you think it had so big consequences, this story? Because he resigned, the president of the parliament resigned, the police started to investigate. Oh, they are fined now. You know, why did it have so big impact?
Seems like we need to understand more the overall political culture and society of Norway, because you see there are lots of incomparably bigger and huge investigations being published in Ukraine, and sometimes it seems that nothing is being influenced by people.
And I think
that's skeptical, and that's all.
Okay, that's very interesting, because I think that's take me to my point, because I can't really say this is why, but what I think is for two reasons. Is first, because people find it unfair. It hits something people are really disturbed by, the way the MPs are using their tax money. And secondly, what is very important is that we have a system, a governing system in Norway. When do something wrong, we have a police starting the investigation. We have someone coming in saying this is not all right, we have to change it, we have to fix this. We have these bodies around the parliament saying this is not okay. And as a compared to me, who have been working a lot with churches, we don't have those bodies. So in churches, I've been doing investigations, and I have the same feeling as you say in Ukraine, Maxim. People are a bit skeptical of what I do. There is no one, authorities coming in and say, okay, let's check this, let's investigate it more.
I would say not just skeptical, but maybe cynical. Just because skepticism could be good, whereas cynicism is always bad. Okay. Just like you see that famous motto by Dr. House, everyone's lying. Okay, there is no truth. Okay, so everything is painted in the dark. But I don't believe that that's the aim we should
no
press on.
Okay. That's true. So it's so important.
Astrid, thank you so much. You really, but you provided a very good lecture. So maybe students have something to say in the last minute. Okay, anyone willing? Because
I will say,
What is pressure from the point of view of a presenter is to be heard by the target audience, not just by the other professor.
I have this wonderful audience with all these great questions I'm going to bring with me. That's nice. And if it's okay with you, I've taken a screenshot, tried to take a screenshot, and it's okay with you that I publish it in our social media. Maxim has said yes already, but I also want to ask you, if it's any problem, let me know. And I can send my presentation in PDF to Maxim so he can forward it to you, and I will enclose my mail address and our social media. So please contact me if you have any questions or whatever. Okay?
Yeah, great. So I plan to post at least some very short how do we call it, report on that very good lecture. Thank you so much, Astrid. Okay. So
thank you for this interesting class, and it was very nice to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Thank
you. It was very interesting to listen to you. Thank you, really.
Thank you very much.
I'm very grateful to you for this meeting. It was very interesting and cool. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice.
I'm so thankful for our teacher because they can meet with foreigners and we can get some experience, and that's so cool. So thank you that you're to come us. I think so.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for the speech. It's very interested and useful. Thank you.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that.
Okay. So
Okay.
now it's time to make a screenshot. Oh, you're finished with it.
I already have done it. Actually,
of course.
I'll try to do it again.
Yeah, there is an investigative journalist, so she already done what she needed.
She's multitasking, you know. Okay, that's great. Take care, people. You know, you are
Thank
in
you
the
so
Norway.
much. See you.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.